recording. Okay. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Pat. Um, and we have some logistical stuff to do, but we'll save that till the end if that's okay. And we'll jump right into chapters 2 and 3. Marcia has confessed that she has not read the chapters because she's been watching chat. Applause to Marcia. Thanks for making good choices.
Well, right now before the season opens, because all these people that are taking the Instagrams and sharing them with the Rangers and a couple staff members, they're working all day
Yeah.
and in Alaska, so they don't post till one post right away when he finishes. That so there's a chance you'll get East Coast 4 hours difference. At, if he finishes the shift at 5, there's a chance 9 or 10 o'clock we'll see something. But usually they wait till later, but then they're usually in bed for the next day's job at 10 o'clock. So when they get ready to post at 8, it's midnight here.
Yeah.
And if they're posting it more towards 10 o'clock, that's 2 a.m. here on the East Coast. So pretty much during the day, you're not going to see anything unless one of the people there has some news to post. Your posts of new appearances or more interesting posts of bears we have seen aren't going to happen till East Coast wise anyway, till between 10 and 2. So what are you going to do?
Well, again, we totally appreciate your efforts. Thank you very much. Um, so today we're talking about chapters 2 and 3, or however much of chapters 2 and 3 you've read. Um, shall we jump in with chapter 2? Kaboom. I love his title for this chapter. And I love the way that he wrote it, with all these kind of exclamation points and I'm also liking I still think that this book is hard to read without my glasses, but I have to say I like all the charts and the graphic stuff that they're doing to break up the text and make it more digestible. Um, any thoughts or comments on chapter 2, Kaboom? He kind of lays out a bunch of statistics in this chapter to talk about, and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't quote the book, but he lays out these statistics in this chapter to talk about the connection between humans and other animals in the environment. Narit, go ahead.
Well, first, I kept on hearing in my head when I was reading it, I kept on hearing Bob saying that it is a depressing chapter. So I was reading it and I was kind of, yeah, he's right. This is depressing. And then another, I said,
My
oh my.
apologies, I didn't write it.
But I think that we all are aware of this problem. But I don't think, at least myself, I don't think I was aware to what extent, this is really happening. So the statistics, I will never remember it, never. But I do remember that it is uh, big numbers in terms of percentage of animals that will be gone. So that is really depressing. However, um, I I thought when I read the chapter that there is one sentence there that, in a way, summarized the whole chapter. So this is on page 58, which is the end of the chapter, actually. And what he says there is, we now qualify not only as the foremost threat to all kinds of other earthly life, but also as the biggest obstacle to a secure tomorrow for ourselves. There, that's what he, showed us. But um, continue under that, the next paragraph, he says something which I didn't get it the first time. I read it a few times to get the point. He says that he would like to emphasize that all of these, how does he say it, like genocide scale of disaster, right, that is going to happen in the future, is a prediction. So all of these are predictions. They're not something that, we know for sure. Yes, they're, as he says, they're based on trends that are seen by scientists. They are based on data and so on. So they are to be believed, but it is just predictions. But then he says something there that I'll find it. Never mind, I'll come back to that afterwards. So first point was that we are destroying everything and we are enemy even to ourselves. Second point was the fact that, wait a minute, it is predictions. And the next, which I got as a point from this chapter, was that based on this sentence that he puts there, do unto ecosystems as you would have them do unto you, which is obviously says, take care of all the ecosystems and animals and so on. But he says, which is nice, that it's not just a moral obligation to do that. He says here, I'm going to read it. He says it in better words than me. This new golden rule, he calls it, I suggest, isn't meant to be taken as a high-minded moral obligation. At this stage of the Anthropocene, it's more like a practical survival strategy. So it is for us. It's not just morally we should do it. It's a survival strategy for us, for everybody. We're talking about life insurance policies here. So that was also a point that I got from this chapter. And the last one was that all of this evidence that he brings in this chapter really shows that there is a need to have a thorough reset of the relationship that we have with nature, with the animals and so on. A realignment, he says, a new realignment. And it is just very difficult to see how it can be done. It is needed, but how will it be done? And he says that as long as we think that we are above everything else, and we are humans, we are not animals, we're not part of nature and so on, we are, up there. As long as this is the conception, the idea, it won't be done. So we have to, and this is, I think, the purpose of this book, we have to change it and reset it to understand that, yes, we are part of nature and we are all together in this, and we're not superior to anybody else. And I think that he finishes this in this chapter. And the next chapter, chapter 3, is actually continuation. Although he said, I remember, he wrote that, I don't know, that you don't necessarily have to read chapter after chapter. You can, but I think these two and 3, it's very important when you read 3 to read 2 before, because 3 actually gives you the proof that we are part of nature. And I'm not going to talk about chapter 3 yet, but I think that chapter 2 was depressing, but then it started, bringing some thinking and ideas and good points for us.
Yeah, thank you, Narit. So depressing but important and informative. Joy, and then Bruni, I think your hand was up as well. So Joy, you're up next.
I agree with Bob. I found chapter 2 depressing. And as a quote taking from chapter 2, as the number of people was roughly doubling in the 42 years between 1970 and 2012, the total population count of the planet's wild animals fell by more than half. I mean, that really shocked me. And that is ocean creatures and everything. And they talked about Brazil, deforestation, cutting and burning the forest, and which we do. But that was just a shock. And I'm sure it's probably even higher now.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sad.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. And that echoes the point that Narit made too about kind of the scope of the numbers, the size of the numbers. I mean, I feel like some of these things I knew, but I didn't know that it was like that scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Bruni and then Bob.
Yes. Yesterday I read the chapter 2 and at night chapter 3. But I remind you that yesterday was the World Environmental Day. So it was a coincidence or not, but it was depressing for me because he has the ability to put all the pieces together from the terrestrial impact, the acidification of oceans, the plastics, the loss of habitats for native species, the demands for a higher and higher population, human population for food. Oh my God. But for example, in my country, we are mainly our agricultural goods is a commodity. So because of the money, we lost many ecosystems, especially at north. And the impact, when I read all these things together, it's a good exercise to think ourselves in our small piece of land, in our state, in our city, rethink how we are impacting the natural world. But of course, we cannot save the world, but encourage all of us to make a little difference in every opportunity we have, cleaning a beach or donate or whatever. And also yesterday, I was trying to search for you the link. I will do while the others can talk. Yesterday, there are a documentary named Jane and Payne. Jane for Jane Goodall and Payne for Roger Payne, who is a researcher, scientist who researched on whales for many years. And of course, they were invited to Peninsula Valdez. Here, I always talk to you about Peninsula Valdez because it's a sanctuary of orcas and whatever. And that conversation triggers a lot of the things that this chapter 2 is talking about. For example, it's a very simple, lovely documentary. They talk together in front of a beach and sharing memories or concepts or ideas to put in place ahead. So I will try to copy the link for you. But I think it was a very interesting chapter 2, just to think about our communities or the way we contribute to minimize a little bit the impact.
Yeah, thank you, Bruni, and thank you for pointing out that yesterday was World Environmental Day. I did not know that. I knew yesterday was National Trails Day, but I didn't know it was World Environmental Day. So thank you for pointing that out. Bob, and then Elizabeth.
I thought today was National Trails Day. My bad.
Oh, no, it might be today, Bob. You know how I am with calendar.
But whichever. Trails are good. Stacy, I agree with you. I mean, in the printed copy of this book, better than the Kindle version, the graphs that he includes, the graphs and the pictures, the graphics, they're terrific. And you kind of miss those in the Kindle unless you really go out of your way to expand them. And yeah, I mean, Joy's right. It's not, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings, but it's just not the most fun chapter to read. But if you want to save yourself a lot of heartbreak in reading all of these statistics, I just wanted to call your attention to two graphs that are on the side and on the bottom of pages that if you're reading through the book quickly, you might miss. I think the first one on page 48 to the left, um, just it's basically a two-entry bar graph, Earth's total wild vertebrate population. And that just graphically shows what's happened to all of the vertebrates in the world. I mean, in our lifetimes, basically. I mean, significantly less than in some of our lifetimes, i.e. me. And then the other one, the first two pages of the chapter down at the bottom and then going up the right-hand side, he just shows the human population of the world since 10,000 BC. And granted, if he shortened the x-axis a little bit, it wouldn't look quite so horrendous, but it would still be going exponential. It would show exponential growth like that. So anyway, those two, I think, summarize pretty much all of his points. If you want to avoid a lot of the depressing statistics, I'd sure like to be optimistic and think, wow, there's something that we can do to reverse this. But I don't know what it is. I mean, those are really important graphs to my way of thinking.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And that graph on the first two pages in particular with the huge spike in population it says a lot. Yeah. Elizabeth, go ahead.
So I guess Bob and I are on the same page. That particular page drew me to it as well. And the statistics there are so dramatic. And I like the fact that they put it in percentages in terms of which species are threatened. And it looks like 60% of large herbivores, 33% of predators are threatened, 25% of I can't even read, of all mammals are threatened. Primates, 3/4 in decline, 33% imperiled. Birds, 14%, reptiles, 15 to 20%, amphibians, over 40%. And the decline in seabirds since the 70s, 70%. And that's because they're losing what they can eat. They're losing all the insects. And then they talked about insect decline by 75%. And that has led to the loss of 30% of seabirds I think he said in North America. And a decline of skates and rays of 30%. I mean, it's just, I knew they were declining, but like Noreen, I didn't realize it was to this amazing extent. Nor the other statistic that hit me was that we have destroyed 40% of the Earth's forests and 82% we've altered.
I mean, the Amazon is well known for all the drugs and healing plants that have come from there. And to think that we're destroying so many species that have saved so many lives, besides the beauty, I mean, the other one is the number of flowering plants that are being destroyed, and the number of ancient plants like gymnosperms and conifers, and there was one other category. Ginkgos. And it just makes me think, what are we human beings doing? We are undermining ourselves by consuming so much. It's almost like we're consuming ourselves. Anyway, that's what hit me.
Yeah. Thank you, Elizabeth. Marley, your hand is raised.
Yes, so I agree. It was a very depressing chapter, and like everyone is saying, we all know these things are bad, but it sort of made it me and others realize exactly how bad. So normally being the half glass full person, I did see one thing this week which gave the tiniest bit of hope. And I didn't catch where it was, but the administration opened up someplace in Alaska to drilling, and nobody bid on it. No company took the contracts. Now, I'm sure that's all business. I'm not holding out hope that that's because they suddenly, decided to care about the environment. But at any rate, nobody bid on it. So that I think, take the good news where you can get it.
Marley, I didn't realize that you were the half glass full person.
Always.
So
always.
Thank you for that. Bob, are you going to add more half glass full information?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I try to be a half glass full kind of guy, but I'm not always successful. In fact, I'm usually unsuccessful, I think, and my wife would probably corroborate that. But so there's these huge trends out there, been going on for centuries, if not millennia. Probably not a huge amount that any of us, or even this book club, as amazing as we are, is going to be able to do anything about it. But you do what you can. And I was a little late to the chat this morning. I was at a presentation at our local native plant nursery, and they had teamed up with one of our local organizations called Think Wild, that basically helps with wildlife rescue and just a lot of the really good things that we all love. And these two presenters were just talking about what we can do to make wildlife friendly habitats in our yards, give them little areas of sanctuary, give them the kind of food they want, a little bit of water, maintain the water so it doesn't become a vector for disease, stuff like this. And all of a sudden, that you'll have bugs, and then you'll have birds eating the bugs, and you'll have other critters eating the birds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you just, I felt really good after listening to that for a couple hours this morning. It was really great. So, we do what we can. And I will say that Doug, his big charity, I haven't gotten around to contributing it, but I will, and I've forgotten what it's called, but the one that opens up wildlife corridors from the Rockies up to the Yukon. I mean, I just, that's huge. That's really key for big critters like, bears and moose and deer and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of half full, do what you can. Most of this didn't happen on our watch. And even if we were as committed as Diane Fossey or Greta Thunberg or anybody, it's still, realistically, it's going to keep going without us. But do what you can.
There you go. You ended on a glass half full kind of note there, Bob. Thank you. Janice, I was hoping you'd chime in. I'm glad to see your hand raised.
Yeah, they didn't bid on those tracks because it's so expensive to develop. And hey, I'm glad that happened. I mean, glad it didn't get bid on yet. I've been watching this PBS series. Darned if I can remember the name of it, but they're emphasizing what small groups of people are doing around the world to make big changes. I mean, little changes, but they're changing. Like they talked about the introducing beavers, these farmers that introduced beaver. This farmer, his land was all blowing away, and he introduced beavers back into the system, and it's working. The land is there's lots of water now, and he's trying to convince other farmers to do the same, because most of them, oh, we don't want beavers, they dam up our water. Well, they do it, and then you get good things that happen. So I really like that series. They and it's not big things, it's little things that grassroots in a country, this is all over the world, is happening. These one people are going somewhere and they're climbing down cliffs and cutting down trees that were invasive and taking away from the aquifer. And it's just been a great series to watch. I'm sorry I don't remember the name of it. And so it gives me hope that things are happening. And that's what I felt in this book, because I get so angry, especially the way Alaska treats and the way this administration treats the environment. And he just keeps saying, we got to stop the blame game. And, and that's a good thing for me to remember, because I can really get wound up on the blame game and forget that we can do something, even if it's little, and that there are things happening in good people that are working really hard to try to reverse some of these trends. But yeah, it was a depressing chapter in some ways, with all those statistics of how much we've lost already.
But yeah, and thank you, Janice, and thanks for mentioning that PBS series. I'm gonna look for that.
I wish I knew what it was called.
I think I've seen previews for it and just not ever tracked it down, and now I want to watch it. I also appreciate your reminding us that he does say, um, he's not trying. I don't think he's trying to make us depressed, right? I think he wants us to get, and I think he even mentions that at some point in the chapter, that I'm not I'm going to stop throwing all of these depressing statistics at you now, and let's look at what we can, what the next step of that is, yeah. Other thoughts about this chapter? Depressing, not depressing? So where does he, oh, Elizabeth, go ahead.
I'm not muted. Okay. Well, I really think it's more of a wake-up call. He's stating facts. This is what we're dealing with. Now, what are we going to do about it? And we unless we know the situation, and I think he's really trying to get us not to be fighting each other about these things, but coming up with a solution to improve everybody, and to show that in the end we are all connected, and in the end we're going to be affected by what happens to all these species. And then I think that takes us right into chapter 3. Well, it goes all the way back to microbes.
So let's go to chapter 3, which I have to say, Doug Chadwick, preeminent bear biologist, who some of us heard give this amazing talk at the bear conference about wolverines, not bears, but one of the best talks I've ever heard, which was about wolverines. And in this chapter 3, he's talking like in a really fascinating way about enzymes and protozoa. And I found myself at one point thinking, oh my God, this guy's a genius. I mean, how can he know so much about so many things? Narit, go ahead. And you're muted.
Sorry, there's too much noise here. I wanted to continue with what you were saying, that he writes it in such a way. I'm sorry. Uh, sorry, I'll come back. I have to make silence over there.
Okay, well, while Narit creates silence, does anybody else want to create noise or comments? Janice, do you think that the series you were watching, could it be Wild Hope or A Fierce Green
That could
Fire?
be it. That could be it. I was trying to think of that. I know that's one of them.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Narit,
Yeah,
do you have silence?
yeah, I can talk now, I hope. What you were saying, Stacy, that he writes it in such a genius. He's a genius to know all of this and to convey to us in such a way. I felt that this chapter wasn't something, like a lot of information that is difficult to absorb or so. I felt he was talking to me. I felt as if, there is a conversation there. And it made it so interesting and quote unquote easy to absorb, although it is very difficult. The topic, I mean, is very complicated, but he did make it simple, and I I agree with you. There must be some kind of genius in him.
I like the way you put that, Narit. When I read him talking about enzymes, that's the way that I talk about bears or other people talk about wolves or kittens, And he talked with, I thought, love and passion about cells and protozoa. I'd never heard anybody talk about those things that way.
Right. Yeah. And I think that the fact that he make us understand that those bacteria and viruses and all these tiny things that we can not even see or anything is so important. And there is, I don't know which page, maybe on page 69, he says, to those folks conditioned to thinking of microbes as enemies, all I can say is sorry, but together with every other, I cannot pronounce it, a eukaryote?
Eukaryote.
Thank you. We evolved from prokaryotes, I cannot pronounce it, and live in a broth of them. And when we die, they will decompose us and use the nutrients to compose more of themselves. This is pretty much the planet of the microbes and will remain so, no matter how loudly we big creatures stomp around claiming dominion. That's I loved it, right? And just to be more the serious fact that actually virus and bacteria, all of these, and on the that belongs to the first domain. He was talking about three domains that are one cell organisms. They really are in our DNA, in our everything. We developed, through them to where we are now. And that is the most evidence, the proof that we are nature, we are part of the animals, and we're not something else. We're not a table or a chair. We have all of this that is nature. So I love that chapter.
Yeah, thanks for pulling out some great quotes there too, Nureed. And Rhonda, I love your comment. Rhonda says it's the most interesting statistics and facts that I've ever read, which I think is true. Yeah, I mean, he made that. I was going to say he made it human to me. Ooh. Okay, lots of hands. Bob, then Elizabeth, then Bruni.
Yeah, Stacy, to your point, about Doug. I mean, after I retired, I took a bunch of science and math classes at our local junior college, and the best teacher I had, and one of the best teachers ever, was a botanist who taught botany and also intro to biology, first year biology. And I mean, he was wonderful. Doug is every bit the same. He's a terrific teacher, and he clearly loves his subject.
And I just want to say 3 cheers to all of you. 3 cheers to that bear conference. Because if we hadn't seen him talk at the bear, I know some of the people in this group have read this book before. I had not. I'm not sure that I would have if the group hadn't voted to read it. So I'm grateful for that. Elizabeth and then Bruni.
Yeah, to your point about how he talks about this, that the way he talks about these single-celled organisms with the kind of love we feel toward the bears. And I think it comes from, and how does he know so much? Well, he started when he was a child. He got his microscope and was fascinated with absolutely everything. So he was doing that for fun when probably all of us were out doing something totally different. So I think he's got a huge head start, plus an enormous curiosity about life. And I mean by life, I mean like any living thing. What is the nature of life? And I had forgotten so much from high school and college biology, and I can't remember if I took zoology, but I'd forgotten, that there are creatures without any membranes in their nucleus and creatures with the nucleus, and then to see how they then develop colonies, and and then how parts of these ancient beings become part of us, and they mentioned one piece living one piece of, I can't remember what it was, but in the placenta that in humans. And here it is. It's on page 70. It said, for instance, a gene essential to the function of the human placenta is a repurposed, I love that word, repurposed sequence from a virus. How much of our bodies are repurposed from other types of organisms? Probably a whole lot.
Yeah, and how interesting too that he wrote it during the pandemic. I thought that was fascinating. Bruni, go ahead. Your hand is raised.
When others talk, they trigger me other ways of thinking, and I lost my first. Let me recall. I'm not sure if I share with you in other sessions that I work when I was young. I worked with molecular biologists, and those the vocabulary in chapter 3 is quite familiar for me because I work as a documentary support librarian. At those times, the beginning of databases for scientific research. I have, at least I remember 2 or 3 projects where my friends, there were a group of young scientists that I was remembering that almost all of them were to USA to perform the PhD, the postdoctoral career, because they found opportunities in US. One of my friends work, I think in the book is named the cyanobacteria. There is an image of the cyanobacteria. A friend of mine work on cyanobacteria because they have, in the book says that they produce a kind of transformation into oxygen. He finally entered to one of the main oil companies here, the national company, and then he was transferred to Texas University to work on one of these projects because I don't remember the word in English. Perhaps can you help me when a ship lost oil and petroleum in the middle of the sea? There is a word for that. When a disaster occurs,
Yeah.
there is a word for that. I don't remember the word. So the environmental impact of that loss of oil and petroleum or whatever is. He was working on a cyanobacteria, a specific subspecies of cyanobacteria that I was saying plain words, like a Pac-Man, they eat the petroleum or the composition of the petroleum and convert into a more healthy molecules or whatever. So he was his thesis was on cyanobacteria. Another example of how these microorganisms help us up to date, I remember in this case a girl that worked on Bacillus thuringiensis. Bacillus thuringiensis is a bacteria that is in the soil, but it was discovered that has some benefits for crops, certain crops, like soybean or I don't know. Soybean mainly in Argentina, the research is focused on improving soybean or any other commercial commodities in crops. These little microorganisms in certain conditions, they produce a kind of defense for other they call coleopters and lepidopters that are the insects, mainly when the climate change started to warm the northern of Argentina, many plagues from Brazil came up to our crops. So they work on Bacillus thuringiensis, but I think Monsanto was the company that finally get how much is it, the patent. The patent is in English also. The patent for the so many group of scientists that start to work on these microorganisms. It's a pure biotechnology. They reach some result that then are put in great scale for the benefits. In this case, microorganisms that improve the resistance to insect attacks or dry or whatever for a better production of food in the countries. But it's another world, the world of microbiology and biotechnology. It's facing 19 as well as those that are bad for us, like viruses or whatever that affect our defenses.
Thank you, Bruni, for standing up for the microorganisms. And I have to say, as a PR person, it makes me think like scientists who do that kind of work, I think have a really huge challenge because it's not like doing like bear cam. You tune into bear cam and you see Otis and you fall in love. But like helping people understand why so it's easy to understand why Otis is valuable and why Katmai is valuable. But I think it's harder to help people understand why a microorganism is valuable as a PR person. That's my impression. Other thoughts about this chapter? Was I the only person who didn't know that we had moved from a hierarchical tree of life to a tree of life that has 3 separate domains? I was not aware of that. Janice is laughing. Janice apparently was aware.
No, I wasn't.
Did everybody else? Elizabeth?
No, I didn't know about that at all. And I'm still trying to figure out what the three domains are. I mean, I need to go back. It says two of the domains consist of single cell organisms called prokaryotes, and um, one is a bacteria, and the other one is these archaeas.
Archaeobacteria, yeah.
Huh? Yeah, archaea, or archaea. It's probably from Greek. Anyway, and then the third one, the third domain is the eukaryotes, which has a membrane-bounded nucleus. So the eukaryotes, which don't have them, has the bacteria and the archaea. But anyway, no, I'd never heard of that. But that is interesting to think. How will that change our thinking? I mean, when you think of a tree, you really think of a hierarchy. And so, of course, human beings will put themselves at the top. So, starting with these little organisms in three domains, where does it put human beings? We're like scattered among them.
Well, what I took from it is that we are not at the top, right? I mean, wherever we are not at the top. And it made me think of the elephant book. And my main takeaway on the elephant book was we're not up here, we're an animal, just like all these other animals, I just never heard that scientists had said we're going to stop. I mean, I was grateful and happy to hear that scientists said we're going to stop thinking of it as hierarchical and think of it as, I guess, modular maybe or something. Thank you guys for not making me feel alone on that.
And I didn't know about that. I was shaking my head because,
Oh, okay.
I didn't have a clue.
Had anybody heard of that before?
No, Stacy, you're not alone.
Excellent. Good.
I'd heard about it back in biology, but I'd totally forgotten it. But I mean, about, the prokaryotes and the eukaryotes, and that the archaeobacteria, the three domains, whatever. But maybe the Buddhists and the Hindus are right. It's all just, big circle of life. I mean, maybe that's what our take should be.
What this guy's saying. We live, we die, we are broken down by these little teeny things, and they die, and then they eat what they've, they eat themselves, and then they create new life. It is really a circle.
Well, and I guess my follow-up question is, like, having read this chapter, do you feel, I mean, part of his point is that we're all connected in ways that we hadn't thought about before. And therefore, we should think differently about the way we interact with other species. Believable? Does that make sense? Maybe. To be determined.
Given this group, I mean, that's preaching to the choir, I think. That's my comment.
Yeah. Nurit, what do you think?
Well, I think that it is something that will be difficult, I think, for all humans, to accept, especially when, we have religion in there, and different beliefs, right? That will never agree with the fact that we are not at the top. So this is one thing. Unfortunately, I think it'll take. He says there that the difference now is that in our lifetime, we will be able to see this disaster happening. I don't think that in our lifetime, we will see such a big change, as he says, like a thorough reset of how we think. it's education, and it's reading books like this more and more. But I remember I was always kind of pessimistic if there is any solution for all of what's happening to our planet. And I remember my friends here were encouraging me and giving me some hope. So I I hope, but it's difficult, to think that eventually it will fly. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Nareed. I mean, I agree with you. I also like that he kind of says it's going to take a long time for this reset. It's not going to happen overnight. I like you or somebody else said earlier, I think he is being pragmatic. He's being practical about what he's proposing, and I kind of appreciate that. He says this is a different way of looking at the world. It's going to get time to change to that perspective. And I think he's being realistic.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
I think people are going to have a really hard time relating to that, though, because it is extremely hard to relate to a microorganism that you can't see. I mean, it's not like an animal it's where there's a personality, where there's more things that we can relate to. I mean, it's very hard for us to relate to a eukaryote or a prokaryote.
But I have to say, when Bruni talked about microorganisms, I was persuaded. Yay, microorganisms. Yay, what Monsanto is doing. I mean, I'd like to think with the help of talented PR people like me, we can change perspectives. And I say that with a smile, but I actually also believe it. Bob and then Nareet.
Just a quick plug for a terrific short, it's like a 9 or 10 minute, not even maybe, video that was made by IBM for IBM, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, a long time. It's called Powers of 10,
Yeah.
Powers of 10. And it's available on YouTube. I think you guys are going to love it if you haven't already seen it. What it does, it goes to the point of like we're saying, how do you relate to something, a micro? Well, like Doug says, we relate to things kind of on our scale. Something, a bear, okay, that's big, that's our scale. Some little tiny thing that you need an electronic microscope to see, no, that's a little harder. But this video, Powers of 10, it goes up by Powers of 10, out to the furthest reaches of the universe, and then down by Powers of 10. And I forgot exactly where it stops, but it really makes you think about how you would look at how you would look at things differently, how you view things differently, depending upon the scale, your scale and the scale of things you're looking at. So rambling sales pitch, but Powers of 10, it's worth 10 minutes.
Not rambling, and Bruni has made a request to please type the name of the video in the chat, Bob. Can you do that?
Not only that, I'll try to find the link really quickly and then post that.
Fabulous. Thank you. Nareet and then Janice.
I was I remembered when Elizabeth was saying that this microorganism, right? We can't even see them, and how can we relate to them? I remember that he wrote about it, something here, and on page, actually most of it is on page 71. When the rest of us picture nature, we are far more likely to have in mind a bird singing from a flowering bush, or a tiger stalking through the shadows on a jungle floor. We can't help it. These are the dimensions our species is attuned to, because most of Earth's species are too small for human to see. We have no real sense of them going about their lives, or of their populations conducting flows of energy and nutrients through ecosystems. We're not conscious of the genes we share with that songbird or that tiger, or the genes we have in common with near infinite numbers of microbes. Most people have no idea that their DNA incorporates pieces introduced by viruses, ancient and new. I think that this summarizes what Elizabeth was saying. It's that, but he points out, yes, even though this is the situation, we have to remember, that about our DNA. What really is it? So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Narit. Janice and then Bruni, or Biggie and then Bruni.
Um, during the pandemic, we were all focused on what that small little organism was doing to the world, So we got, a major slap in the face about, what a tiny thing can do to disrupt the whole how the world works. And, we were all focused on it every day. How many more people died? And we were all glued to the news and waiting for the vaccines and how the thing spread. And now we've got the Ebola thing going on over in Africa again. And maybe not as much panic, but there wasn't as much panic at the beginning of the COVID either. Because don't worry, don't worry. And then all of a sudden it was a world horrible thing. And I also wanted to give a shout out for the pictures. I loved the picture between 2 and 3 of the baby with and the gorilla. I think baby gorilla. That was very enchanting. I just loved, and a lot of the pictures are very interesting.
Yeah, and the pictures I think they're thought-provoking and often funny. I mean, they're funny, they make you laugh, and then for me, they make me think, why am I laughing?
Yeah.
And they work that way. Yeah. Thanks, Janice. Bruni, go ahead.
Yes, I I was to comment something, but Janice made me think about those when I used to commute between Buenos Aires and my city. Um, a, a friend of mine told us, a group of friends, that the the closure for the COVID will be near for the government. So I rapidly prepared all my things and came to my city. In the route, I was thinking in all this kind of my molecular biologist friends, and I was thinking, if you can have in mind the Pampas landscape, it's plain. I would think, how in the hell can a microorganism create this disaster? And I was thinking, it's not true, it's not true. And well, I remember when that moment of thinking while driving, and I was I was unable to understand how 1 billion tiny things uh, could be impact the world in such a manner. But I forgot what I was near to comment when I reached my hand. I was thinking while you talk about it's well said that Alaska is promoted as one of the pristine um, landscapes in the world. And I was thinking, if you realize why. Because something or someone or is doing the cleaning job. So when we watch on camps the disaster in July for all the carcasses, salmon carcasses. When we watch, I don't know, chunk pooping in the falls, and how do you think the ecosystems work to have such a pristine earth without the work of the microorganisms? I remember in one play-by-play session, I guess the value of the salmon contribution to the trees or the roots, or I don't remember well, but that incredible balance from the top hierarchy of a bear, the microorganisms that do their job. That's all.
I no longer think that microorganisms need PR people like me. I think they need PR people like Bruni. Well said, Bruni. Any other thoughts on chapter 3? Did chapter 3 lift our spirits after chapter 2?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It is 5:05, an excellent bear. I wonder if we should stop our discussion of chapters and turn briefly to logistics. Would that be okay with everybody? And I'm gonna stop recording, I think. Hang on one second. Stop recording.